Unfaithful wife that I still have trust issues with will probably contact her affair partner soon, despite agreeing to no contact and the consequence of divorce. I am approaching the 1-year anniversary of my D-Day. Here is my story. We are both in our mid-40s. We have been together for more than 30 years, since high school. We have 2 teenage children. My wife, her choice, has been a stay-at-home mom for most of the last 15 years, whilst I work hard in a stressful but well-paid job to provide for our family. A few years ago, my wife and I went through the traumatic experience of the death of one of our children. My wife struggled more than myself. I tried to remain strong for her and our other children. She had bereavement counseling, but that did not help her. Her mental state due to our loss was all over the place, and things got progressively worse with our marriage. Around 2 years ago, we had a massive drunken argument. I said lots of nasty things, called her names, but no physical abuse. I was stupid and immature. I did not apologize for my outburst, and this resulted in a dead bedroom and a lack of good communication. I turned to alcohol and I became depressed about the whole situation. This time last year, I was considering divorce. I wanted things to get better between us, but I knew we both had to change for that to happen. As a last throw of the dice, I suggested marriage counseling. She declined, but I had individual counseling. This helped me. I gave up drinking, I also lost weight, and got into my best ever physical shape with lots of exercise. My mental health and attitude towards my wife improved. We were both happier. We had just started becoming intimate again, and it looked like our marriage could survive. So things were looking up again until by sheer chance, I discovered her affair. In retrospect, there were lots of red flags, but I always trusted her and assumed she would never cheat on me. I did some snooping and confronted her with only a small amount of what I knew. Initially, the affair was denied and I got trickle truth. For example, she told me she had only kissed her affair partner a few times, but her story had lots of holes in it. I caught her totally off guard with the confrontation and my questions. The next day, I was all set to show her my proof that they had gone beyond kissing each other when she admitted to having unprotected sex, on more than one occasion, with the affair partner. But it was over now, and he had finished it. The physical affair had started not long after our big drunken argument the year before. She came out with the classic line, "I still loved you, but was no longer in love with you." She recently told me that because of the arguments that she thought I no longer loved her when her affair started. This was not true. I did still love her, despite our problems, as she would have found out if we were communicating and had asked me. Following her confession, I took my wife's phone off of her. She gave me the passcode and passwords to email and social media apps. I read all their available messages. There were gaps in chats, probably removed just before her confession of the physical affair. But by now, I had pretty much the full story. The day after, I messaged the affair partner from my wife's phone to get his side of the story and to threaten him should he carry on seeing my wife. His story matched my wife's version. He had finished the physical affair due to the damage it would cause to both families, and he wanted a life with his betrayed spouse and not my wayward spouse. He told me what an amazing person my wife was. She had fallen for him, and that's when he ended it, because it was getting too serious for him. He apologized to me and said that he would tell his wife what he had done. I told him that was up to him, as I didn't want someone else to suffer the pain I had suffered. I told him that if he ever saw my wife again, then I would tell his wife. I did not tell him to break off contact because my plan was to install keylogger software on my wife's phone. Bear in mind that we were in the middle of lockdown at this point in time, so there was no way they could see each other. For the first few weeks, they would message each other. My wife told her affair partner that I knew about them. The affair partner did not tell her that I had messaged him. It was amusing to watch this unfold. They were now having arguments and blaming each other for their affair. My wife, in an attempt to save our marriage or stop me kicking her out of our house, was love-bombing me and at the same time giving her affair partner crap for using her and treating her badly. However, she also said she wished that they could see each other and chat properly about what happened. She did appear to show remorse for how much her actions had hurt me. She admitted to me that she had been selfish. I asked her if she had ever cheated on me before. She answered that with a subtle difference to the question, that it was her one and only affair. I am now suspicious she had a one-night stand with a former boyfriend many years ago, but I have no proof. She said she had fallen back in love with me because I had changed for the better. But as we all know, actions speak louder than words, and you cannot believe a word that a cheater says. Even at this point, she was still sending messages to him, although they were innocent messages, as they were discussing their hobby, which is where they first met and got to know each other as friends. I phoned a lawyer to discuss my options and see how things would look should we divorce. My wife overheard some of the conversation, and this seemed to wake her up to the reality of the situation. Soon after, my wife sent a final message to the affair partner, telling him that she would not be chatting any longer and he was not to get in touch with her ever again. Contact between them did stop, and at this point, I gave her some boundaries and the consequences should she break them. One of the rules was no contact or see the affair partner ever again, and if he contacted her, to let me know immediately. I told her if she broke that rule, I would divorce her. She agreed to this. I told her she needed counseling to work on herself and find the reasons why she did what she did. She agreed, although she said she felt forced to go, but only went twice and then stopped, telling me she already knows the reason for her affair, so did not need any more counseling. I saw the same counselor a dozen times, and despite client confidentiality, my counselor did tell me my wife was remorseful. This was a few months ago. My wife and I have been getting on better than ever. I do love her, but I have not forgiven her yet. There has been no contact between my wife and her affair partner, but I have reason to believe that may change shortly. Finally, given all that information, the questions I have are: 1. Does anyone think my wife has any chance of redeeming herself and remaining faithful to me, or should I run a mile? 2. Should she contact the affair partner again, as I suspect she will, even though it will be to chat about something innocent? Should I file for divorce as she will have broken the no contact rule? 3. If divorce is not the answer, is there anything else she or I should do for a successful reconciliation? Alright, coming at you with an update. As I suspected, my wayward spouse has contacted her affair partner. She will now face the consequences. To recap, the timeline is not exact, but the story is. We've been together for over 30 years, and we started dating in high school. 2 years ago, my wife and I were going through a rough patch, and she had an affair. D-Day was 12 months ago, at the start of the lockdown. Unbeknown to my wife, I read some of their messages. It appeared as though the physical affair was over, but they were still in contact. I later discovered that he had finished the physical affair 7 months prior to D-Day, probably because my wayward spouse had fallen in love with him and he was never going to leave his wife. She was upset and hurt that he had dumped her, especially as he had told my wife that he loved her. They remained friends and continued to message each other. My wife told him that she could not get him out of her head. This time last year, I had never heard of Reddit. I did not know who to ask for help or advice. I know my methods are a bit messed up, but my cunning plan was to try and get the whole truth about the affair and determine if our marriage could be saved. Not an easy thing to do when you cannot believe a word a cheater says. My wife could not see the affair partner, so I assumed she would contact him using her phone to tell him that I knew about their affair. For the next 6 months, whilst we were supposedly trying to fix things, I could, without my wife's knowledge, see their messages. Some brief highlights are as follows. They both lied to each other, and they both blamed each other for the affair. He said their friendship crossed the line, and he regretted what they did. My wife never said she regretted the affair. He cherished their moments together, but also wanted to try and forget it ever happened. An oxymoron? My wife told him that she hated him and that he had used her. He denied this, but other times she said that she missed him. Also contradictory. She said that she was broken and she could not live with the hurt she had caused me. So at times, she did display some signs of remorse. On a number of occasions, she said that she would not be able to see him again and she was not going to contact him ever again. A few days later, she would message him. During these 6 months, I got myself into great physical shape. I had individual counseling, and there was hysterical bonding. My wife told me that she had made a huge mistake. She wanted a future with me. I meant the world to her. She had fallen back in love with me. I asked her if she could go back in time and change things, what would she do differently? Her reply was to not let a good friendship turn into an affair and fix things between us before the affair started. She told me that she would accept any consequences but begged me not to tell our children what she had done. Our children do not deserve to be hurt. The truth was, she did not want them to hate her. On the plus side, my wayward spouse did not say anything derogatory about me to the affair partner, at least not from the messages I have read, but she must have said stuff about our marriage to him previously. He said things like, "I hope you can correct the things that were wrong between you. I hope you can move forward," etc. On the negative side, my wayward spouse told him that I loved her and she was going to be okay, presumably because she thought I was not going to leave her, but she never said to the affair partner that she loved me. At one point, she got angry with the affair partner and said, "All I need is my children." She never said that she needed me or loved me. 6 months ago, I thought reconciliation was going to be impossible. I rang a lawyer to discuss my options. my wife eavesdropped on some of the conversation. I don't know how much she heard, but this was the wake-up call she obviously needed. At this point, her attitude changed and she finally broke off contact with the affair partner. I set some boundaries and consequences. The main one being no contact under any circumstances, otherwise I will divorce her. She agreed to all my conditions. Given all the messages I had read between them, I was doubtful that she would not contact him again, but for 5 months she maintained no contact, and things seemed to be going in the right direction between us. A few weeks ago, my wife discovered from a mutual friend of theirs that the affair partner has an incurable disease. I thought she would contact him, and sure enough, she has done. She has betrayed my trust yet again. The messages were innocent enough to begin with. She sent him positive thoughts. She hoped the treatment would be a success, but then she stated, "Get better soon, and look forward to seeing you soon." And the final dagger into my broken heart? "One last thing. Do you regret meeting me?" "No." "Good. Me neither." That's all, folks. I am done with her. There's nothing left worth fighting for. I know divorce is going to cause me and our children hurt and financial hardship. I know she has mental issues, but she is not willing to get help, and I cannot force her. I know there is no point wasting any additional time trying to understand her actions, but I still wonder how she could do this to me and our children. I'm going to speak to a lawyer again, this time without her knowing, and get her served. I hope to get joint custody of our children. The starting point of the split of our financial assets will be 50-50, but I want to try and get more than this, by hook or by crook. I will be receiving some inheritance once the house of my deceased relative is sold. I also have Bitcoin that I purchased a few years ago, and the value of this has increased to a nice amount of money. I also have a large pension pot. Is it possible to prevent my soon-to-be ex-wife getting her hands on the proceeds? Alright, let's see what the community has to say. Windy Sales 76 says, "Unfortunately, the problem with reconciliation is you're not only fighting your own demons, but basically having to compete with the emotional attachment between the wayward wife and her affair partner. There are many reasons why many people on here say don't stay with her. It's because of experience. We have been through this and know that the love fog you have with your wife is just as strong as their cheating fog. But at least for you, lesson learned. Most wayward spouses never really get over their affair partners. Good luck, friend." Kin Pajamas adds, "It's insane to me how they view affair partners. Most of the time, they're less attractive and never did a dang thing for them, especially in comparison to what you did for them as their spouse. In the minds of these sick people, years of being there for them, sharing life with them, the gifts, the kids, the memories, the vacations, etc., seem to pale in comparison to some excitement of cheap sex. They gave up everything for someone who is simply using you for sex. They become obsessed with them. It's so crazy. When you look at my wife's affair partners, they weren't even good looking. Neither were rich, and neither were good guys. But when you're a narc and there's some new male attention to be had, I guess you have to pounce." Reletrinit, I think that's how you say that, says, "Surprising number of wayward spouses do downgrade then upgrade. The downgrades being downgrades have to make up by creating a fantasy world for wayward spouse. On the other end, wayward spouse wants to feel in love again, want all that attention. They feel abandoned from the betrayed spouse, and they think of their marriage as a mistake. They want to get out. Unfortunately, most wayward spouses suffer from low self-confidence and negative body image, even if they look like models. So they rush to anyone throwing them a bone and willing to spend time in creating their made-to-order fantasy world. I am curious, what happened after your wayward spouse broke up with the affair partner? Did she try to come back? Do you have kids?